Red lights and sirens cut through the night air on the west side of Lower Manhattan as rescue and recovery efforts around what used to be the World Trade Center went round the clock. For Nora Septoff, born and raised in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, and now a New Yorker, along with her daughter Samantha, a night spent blocks away from the wreckage and carnage doing what they could, handing out water and sandwiches to workers headed into Ground Zero.
We pulled together and we got such a bad rap all the time, and we showed that we could pull it together, and we're out here helping people. It's incredible.
Mother and daughter spent hours on the West Side Highway helping others, and in so doing helping themselves feel better in the midst of a disaster.
I'm actually kind of happy because they're doing so much for New York, and so it's good that we can help them out too.
So it makes you feel better yourself, huh?
Yeah.
A little therapy for you.
I'm proud to be in New York.
Nora Septoff may be a New Yorker now, but her family is still in Montgomery County. Her message to them, short and to the point.
We're doing okay in New York. We're surviving, and damn them all to hell because we're going to survive this, I promise you.
Meantime, in Midtown, more help coming from our region at the Salvation Army, now mustering their reinforcements.
Very fortunate in having 5 mobile canteen units from the Philadelphia Command.
And they're coming in. What kind of work are they doing?
They came in yesterday afternoon. They are down at Ground Zero. 2 of them are right around the block from the former Trade Center site.
The ash from the disaster is tracked into other parts of the city on tires and feet. Major Margaret Morris from Philadelphia's North Broad Street headquarters spent 24 hours at Ground Zero, evacuated late last night when nearby buildings began to tremble.
We were serving coffee, and then to look out and see everybody running up the street. I mean, you know, the National Guard, the police, everybody. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And so we just jumped out of the van and ran with them. And yeah, so we've been waiting for hours to get back just to get our vehicles. So
Philadelphia is here.
Yes, it is, very much so.
They're no longer just New York City firefighters. Now they're all heroes, wounded heroes, after the loss of hundreds of comrades in Tuesday's fire and collapse of the Twin Towers. But this week, anyone in a uniform, a police officer, a National Guardsman, even a utility worker ready to go into Ground Zero is getting a hero's welcome from tough New Yorkers. And many of those emergency medical personnel heading in are from the Delaware Valley.
We don't know what we're going to see. I mean, this is like nothing we've ever experienced before. I mean, I've been doing this since 1984 down where I live, and this is amazing.
Stuart Sagan is a long way from his Upper Township Cape May County home and rescue squad, but today he and dozens of other South Jersey ambulance and rescue vehicles are in New York for rescue of the living, recovery of the dead.
Well, from what we're hearing, they've found 4 or 5 alive so far today, so we're hoping rescue. Keep your hopes up and hope that there's still people alive in there. So we're hoping on rescue, not recovery.
New York City may be nearly 100 miles away from Philadelphia, but today, lots of familiar names in this town. The names of hospitals, medical centers, ambulance squads, and rescue squads who are here in New York to help. Underwood Memorial, Cherry Hill, even shore communities like Avalon have set their best to help.
So far it's been all medical. People who exhaustion, dehydration, breathing in the air, of course, which is not very comfortable.
Have you ever seen anything like this? You're a long way from Avalon, New Jersey.
Absolutely not, sir. Absolutely not.
So with familiar New York faces like Donald Trump paying a visit to Ground Zero, there are familiar local faces here too, like Stu Sagan from Cape May County alongside, leaving their loved ones behind to look into the face of death, all the while hoping for life.
You're going down to Weston Church for relief. I need you to move. Lights on, no sirens.
Three days later, and the red lights and sirens don't stop along the west side of Lower Manhattan. At the southern tip of the island, the landscape resembles a war zone. And while the military may be used to search and rescue in a war, it's still nerve-wracking for civilians, like Lieutenant John Williams from Delran Rescue Squad.
Quite a bit now that we're next to go up, you know. It was a little bit surreal this morning, but now that we're next up to go in, it's a little nerve-wracking.
Delran next in line to ride past the cheering New York throngs into the still burning wreckage of the World Trade Center. John Williams knows thousands are dead, but he's hopeful of life under the rubble 3 days later.
Hoping rescue. They're still pulling them out, so.
Delran is like the others, waiting in line to go in, volunteers whose pay comes with a life that's saved.
Hope we can find somebody alive in there. Well, we're next in, so we're really looking forward to trying to help somebody and get them out of there, you know.
It looks dangerous, though.
It's a tragic thing. Well, it's all part of the job.
The members of all the ambulance and rescue squads are trained to deal with death and dying, but they're also trained to use their skills to cheat death.
When we do rescue them, we can defib them, we can start breathing for them, we can start lines and get them, we've got a medic in the back, get them rehydrated again, get them to the hospital as soon as we can, and get back out here to save another one.
From a distance, the sunset over Manhattan appears clear enough until you take a closer look into the nighttime skies over New York and see the dust blowing up out of ground zero.
It's everywhere, you know. Then the wind changed after the first day, and it started coming right down the city. So, you know, just don't take any chances. Why not? You never know.
As the smoke continues to billow up from the wreckage of the Twin Towers, New Yorkers are covering up with masks of every size, shape, and color.
I think the wind shifted from the south, and it brings more of the, who knows what's in the buildings.
Jim Patterson got his mask from a dental student he knows. And living south of 14th Street, he says he needs it.
You can smell it when the wind shifts, you even know. I mean, all of a sudden you'll be outside and it's bad.
So in the town that invented the fashion statement, the mask has become the fashion statement this week in Lower Manhattan. But it makes more than a statement. It speaks volumes about health, safety, and more than just a little bit of patriotism.
The smoke just started to kick back up again, so I put it back on. It's kind of hot and uncomfortable, but, you know.
You can really smell, almost taste the smoke, can't you?
It's the smell of death, you know. It smells like smoke, but it seems like death to me.
So while the smoke billows, New Yorkers wave it away with their flags. And while the dust remains, life goes on with masks that New Yorkers can cheer through, eat around, and while they cover a face, they can't mask a kiss.
I love my son.
Instead of being able to kiss her son, Louis J. Nacky II, and wish him a happy 43rd birthday, Philomena Nacky, along with her grandsons, had to settle for putting flowers on his grave today. It's the family's first stop on their journey to Shanksville.
I talked to him on his birthday last year, and that was the last time I spoke with him.
Her firstborn, her hero, father of two boys himself, died September 11, 2001, when his hijacked United Flight 93 crashed in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
He was not only my son, but he was my friend. We were very, very close.
Louis Nacky was a warehouse director for KB Toys in Clinton, New Jersey. His mom remembers her joker, her fighter, and knows he died saving others.
Black box. My son and daughter listened to it, and they think my son believes that he heard his brother say, "Get him." And I can deal with that.
She also says she can deal with the way her son would want her to go on.
To be happy, not to grieve, and to watch out for his children. He would want that above all else.
In Valley Forge, I'm Robin Rieger, KYW3 Eyewitness News. It's a wall of color, mainly red, white, and blue. Its frame is only a chain-link fence, but its substance is the heart of the American people. Visitors in the last year have left hats, buttons, badges, every kind of memorial imaginable to the 40 victims lost on United Flight 93. Victims of families who stop and stare are deeply touched.
They're pouring their souls out here. They're going beyond anything superficial. This is really coming from the heart.
Lowell Dahl's brother Jason Dahl was the pilot on the plane that crashed in the field just below this memorial. Family members toured it today. It's Lowell's first visit, and he's glad he finally came.
It's a very important part of the healing. It's a very important part of the grieving.
Carol Heydrich is Jason Dahl's big sister. She says 1 year later, peace still eludes her.
He was a very special brother, and I know there were a lot of good people that were lost that day, and I really know how they feel, because Jason was a wonderful brother, very caring, and I just like everybody to know how special he was.
That's what most family members want known on this first anniversary, just how special their loved one was and how brave. Angels bearing the names of co-pilot Leroy Homer of Marlton and Louis Nackey of New Hope and all of the other heroes on board Flight 93 symbolize the ultimate sacrifice made, and for Kenny Nackey, the painful reality of September 11th, 2001.
I was driving down the road one day and I was just realized that they're not coming back. So I guess, I think it's harder now than it was then.
This makeshift memorial in Shanksville has been a magnet for families who lost loved ones on United Flight 93 and for those who want to pay their respects to people they never knew but admire. I'm Robin Rieger in Shanksville. Join us for our coverage of the anniversary of September 11th. I'm Robin Rieger in Shanksville, following local families who lost loved ones on United Flight 93. This memorial wall tells their stories. Join us for a look at the heroes and the full coverage of the anniversary of September 11th.
It's going to be real hard. Old wounds are going to be opened again. But I'm going because I'm honoring my father.
15-year-old Louis Nackey's love for his dad will bring him to the site in Shanksville where Louis Nackey II died last September 11th in the crash of hijacked United Flight 93. Despite the pain he says the visit will cause him and his family, Louis says this is where he belongs.
That's his graveyard, that's a hero's graveyard. It's something like he's drawn me there, and it feels like I just got to be there once a month, once every 2 months. But I know he's there, and that's where I love to be.
His family was here last year, not long after the crash.
Really sad and very depressing. I mean, seeing the people in the FBI in the white suits going down there, it was really hard.
This September 11th, Louis's older brother Joe says it will be worse for him, despite the well wishes of those who constructed a touching memorial to the 40 heroes on board that plane.
I think about my dad every day anyway. Every single day I think about my dad. When I go up there, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder for my whole family, too.
Louis Nackey, called Joey by family members, would have been 43 on Monday, September 9th. Instead of celebrating another birthday, Louis and Joe and their grandmother left flowers at his grave. Philomena Nackey believes her son died a hero, but says she'd rather have him by her side.
It doesn't bring him back to us. And that is what I want more than anything. I want my son.
An Air Force transport plane circled the field in Shanksville today, where last September 11th, 40 heroes died in the crash of hijacked United Flight 93. On a hill above the serene site, a sea of red, white, and blue welcomes visitors to a temporary memorial where family members embrace the love and support left in each memento.
It's a very important part of the healing. It's a very important part of the grieving.
Lowell Dahl lost his brother, pilot Jason Dahl, and he appreciates the thoughtfulness of people who've never met him. In this friendly little town of Shanksville and its surrounding communities, there are reminders everywhere of the ultimate sacrifice made that few will ever forget.
It's just so sad, but one thing that is good is that no one else in this area was hurt as far as what they did to try to divert the plane.
Despite tight security and a crush of media, residents here continue with their daily lives. Shanksville Fire Chief Terry Schaefer remembers the devastation of September 11th, 2001, and hopes September 11th, 2002 brings hope to the families.
I hope it's a day of that maybe we can take away a little bit more in the healing process, that we can all take something from this and move on a little further with our lives.
Many family members have spent about a day and a half together getting ready for a memorial service tomorrow where a bell will ring 40 times to honor the 40 heroes of Flight 93. Louis Nacky of New Hope was one of them. His sons say they don't know if their pain will ever go away. Tough times for many of those family members and for a community that's opened its arms wide to accept them. We'll have more on Shanksville at 6 o'clock. I'm Robin Rieger, KYWTV Eyewitness News. A community is doing its best to offer solace to family members who lost loved ones here last year. In the meantime, preparations continue for tomorrow's anniversary memorial, which will honor all of the heroes on Flight 93.
This church, built in 1901, looks brand new, and it almost is. It's called the UAL Flight 93 Memorial Chapel, named for the 40 heroes lost on United Flight 93. This is what it looked like 3 weeks ago. Tonight it was open for fellowship with Reverend Alphonse Mescherino.
Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
The local 84 lumber store donated $23,000 worth of supplies and several employees who said rebuilding the church was a labor of love.
We've been talking to a lot of families now, and that's when it gets hard, whenever families come in and start talking to you and telling you how much they appreciate it, and that's what makes you happy as to be here and do this.
One room is dedicated to the heroes of United Flight 93 who took fate into their own hands and fought back against terrorism. Todd Beamer, Lorraine Bay, Jeremy Glick, Leroy Homer, and the others will be remembered here always. Church's focal point is the 2,900-pound Thunder Bell, the voice of Flight 93, that Jim Zonick says people love to ring.
People from all over the world are coming, at least all over the country anyway. We've been meeting the last 2 weeks, coming from all parts of the country, just to be part of this.
The images this morning were heartbreaking as tears fell on grief-stricken faces. A time for honor and hope was the theme of the service to mark the first anniversary of the crash of United Flight 93 in Shanksville. At 10:06, it was time to remember.
Jason Dahl, Leroy Homer Jr.,
Children who lost a parent, moms and dads who lost a daughter or son, and spouses whose partner would never return last September 11th held tight to one another as the names of 40 heroes were called.
Kristen Gould White.
Sandy Dahl, wife of pilot Jason Dahl, says we can find meaning 1 year later.
Compassion, kindness, and concern can be found everywhere in America. If we've learned nothing else from this tragedy, we've learned that our lives are short and there's simply no time for hate.